Welcome to the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Hartley. This podcast exists to equip and inspire your heart-centered leadership. Every week, we bring interviews with some of the greatest heart sets and mindsets on the planet. I hope the heartprint of our time spent together is that it creates new possibilities for you and all those you come into contact with. If you'd like to explore what we could make possible for you, then head to abty.co.uk/connect and book in a free 30-minute call to begin our journey together. I just want to express a huge amount of gratitude to our sponsors, Exhale Coffee. I have been a big fan of Exhale Coffee since meeting Alex and the team back in 2022. Exhale is the first coffee to be sourced, roasted and lab tested specifically to maximize its antioxidant and anti-inflammatory potency. An independent lab test has shown that 1 cup of Exhale Coffee has the same antioxidant power as 1.8 kilos of blueberries or 55 oranges. I'm a huge fan, and Mrs. H loves the decaf, especially because she knows that Exhale use the mountain water decaffeination process, which uses only pure glacial water from the highest mountain in Mexico and no nasty chemicals. Simply head to exhalecoffee.com/ABTY for your special offer. And lastly, before I introduce this week's guest, please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It would really help us leave a greater heartprint on this world. On episode 255, I welcome Dr. Robert Glover to the podcast. Dr. Robert is a relationship expert with over 40 years of professional experience. You might well know him as the author of the groundbreaking book, No More Mr. Nice Guy. Dr. Robert has helped thousands of men worldwide transform their lives and get what they want in relationship, sex, and their career. It's a fascinating conversation, one I cannot wait for you to hear. It's episode 255 with Dr. Robert Glover. Dr. Robert Glover, welcome to Always Better Than Yesterday podcast. How are you, brother?
I'd say good morning to you, but it's afternoon your time. I'm well. It's always fun to get up early in the morning and have a conversation.
No, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day. And I just wonder, like, with your book, you know, it's been in the world over 20, 21, 22 years.
Yeah.
Man, culture's doing a good job at creating more nice guys for you to tackle.
The coaches are creating more nice guys.
Culture, the culture, the way of the world.
Oh man, let's not blame it on the coaches. You know, they're helping. They're recommending.
They're doing their best, right?
You know, yeah, just an interesting observation is that when I first started working with nice guys, as I define them, you know, men that are passively pleasing, trying to become what they think other people want them to be, hiding anything about them they think might get a negative reaction. You know, it was probably close to 30 years ago. And a lot of the men I was working with, you know, probably closer to my age now, you know, older guys. And a lot of what they said is, you know, especially talking about their families, that, you know, dad was either gone because of divorce or angry and not safe or alcoholic or working all the time, just never there. And kind of mom ran the show. What I'm hearing from a lot of men nowadays is, and it to me kind of illustrates the difference. A lot of the younger men I work with say, guys, my son's aging down. My son's 38. Is they say, oh, my dad was a nice guy. And all he taught me about being a man was don't piss off your mother. Because that's what he was trying to, you know, not do, is not piss off, you know, my mom. So not only did we have, I think, a number of cultural dynamics since, say, World War II, specifically, that began to really create a lot of nice guys worldwide. But I think that now we've got dads training their sons to be nice guys, and probably an educational system that's really contributing to that as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting because my son is of primary school age, kind of kindergarten type, I think, is the age, and there's so much emphasis on, I think, feminism that it's almost sometimes shamed. The boy side of him is shamed. That anything that is, you know, one of his teachers referred to him as being sexist, and I was like, wow, like that's a heavy label for an 11-year-old to carry, you know?
Yeah, it starts getting scary, and you know, and again, I'm not a big fan of playing victim and bashing. Well, you know, it's their fault. You know, that kind of thinking. You know, Nazism began in that way. So I'm not a big fan of that. But I think we do have to be able to identify certain things. And I've had a lot of
Mm.
parents say, my son came home from school and, he heard the word toxic masculinity,
Right.
used to describe anything negative that little boys did.
Mm.
And yeah, and it's bigger than that. When I was in graduate school in the 1980s or early 1980s, my teachers in child development, coming from a more feminist bent,
Mm.
we're already teaching back in the 80s that there's no such thing as gender. Gender is just a social construct imposed on little boys and little girls. We make little boys not cry. We make little girls play with dolls. And then they would say, gender is fluid. Well, gender can be fluid to a degree.
Mm.
But nowadays, a friend of mine that teaches sex education in school says we teach the children that there are as many genders as there are people on the planet.
Yes.
And I'm not sure that helps confused little kids, especially during adolescence. And the other
Mm.
message I got in these child development courses
Mm.
that it was, even while they're saying there's no such thing as gender, they're saying that the masculine tendencies of competition were bad. I mean, they just flat out said that. And none of this was scientific
Mm.
fact. It was just,
Mm. Mm.
it was part of a kind of a doctrine that was growing in the university level at that time. And they said basically everything little girls do is cooperative. So that's good. So, the educational system went that way, just to get
Mm.
rid of any kind of competition and go all towards cooperation. And with coming from a bent that those feminine traits were better, all the while saying there's no such thing as
Mm.
gender. And it's kind of funny, you look around now and you see a lot of cooperative, passive young men and a lot of competitive, aggressive
Mm.
young girls and women. So
Mm.
it's interesting how, maybe we've just flipped things. Nothing's maybe changed. We just,
Mm.
flipped who's playing the cooperative and who's playing the competitive role.
Yeah. Well, I'd just like to take a moment to thank you for the amount of cognitive dissonance you put me through reading your book. The amount of
Are,
times
are,
that I
are you
read.
one of those people that kept putting it down because you couldn't read it, or you
No,
couldn't put it down
I'm
because,
listening intently because I feel like I'm enough through a journey where I can look back and go, oh man, I could have done with you 10 years ago in my life. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Because I've unfortunately learned some lessons and some wisdom through maybe the suffering and the struggling that you'll be familiar with within the book. My wife and I've been together since we were 15. So we've been married, we've been
Wow.
together
Wow.
21 years, right? And my wife has had to suffer me as boy, man, boy, emerging man. And so when I share with her my learnings, we can both put that younger version of me in the middle and have a bit more compassion for that. Oh
Sure.
man, like there's some interesting behaviors and that maybe those are some of the roots. Grew up single parent family, mum ran the show, several jobs, and so that's kind of where I'm coming from. I am all ears for your work. I've shared it with a number of people within our men's group that we run at Always Better Than Yesterday, and it is really speaking to the heart of men. But first, it brings this cognitive dissonance up. It brings up this. Oh well, what's wrong with being a nice guy?
Well,
You know,
the title brings up a cognitive dissonance, and
right?
I did that on purpose.
Mm.
It was kind of an evolution. When I first started looking at this dynamic that I now call nice guy syndrome, it began with me.
Mm.
Um, my second wife, basically said, everybody thinks you're such a nice guy, but you're not. You
Mm.
can be mean to me, you can be passive aggressive, you can embarrass me, you can hurt me in public. And she said, basically, I'd rather be with an asshole because I know an asshole is going to be an asshole all the time. You are treating me well, and then out of the blue, you're mean to
Right,
me. And she
right.
goes, you need help. And I thought, well, you're the one who's moody all the time and angry and never happy. Okay, I'll go get help. Luckily, I landed in some really good places and started discovering things like my toxic shame and how to
Mm.
begin to release toxic shame, the sense that I'm not good enough, I'm bad, I'm
Mm.
defective, I'm unlovable. Began to learn about, making my needs a priority and asking for what I want rather than using what
Yeah,
I call covert contracts, trying to
yeah.
manipulate people into giving me what I wanted. Started learning about honesty,
Mm.
having integrity, speaking the truth, the whole truth, having transparency about what I wanted, what I felt, what I expected, what was bothering me. My
Mm.
my my ex used to say we'd have a big blow up. She'd call my victim pukes, and she'd go, "How long has it been bothering you?" I go, I don't know, 6 months or so." She goes, "You never thought to just tell me?" I go, "No, actually, it never crossed my mind to just say, this is bothering me. Can we have a conversation? Or can you stop doing that? Or can you do
Yes.
more of it?" So kind of this began out of my own personal growth.
Yeah.
And I was in started in a 12-step group. I was going to then a therapist, and I was in a men's group for about 5 years. And I was a marriage and family therapist. So all of a
Mm.
sudden I was noticing, maybe it was happening before, but guys were coming to me saying, I'm a nice guy. I'm one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. I treat my
Mm.
girlfriend, my wife, better than her ex. I'm raising her kids. I do everything for her. She's never happy. It's never good enough. When is it going to be my turn? I thought, well, hey, I'm not the only one. So I started a No More Mr. Nice Guy men's group. I started just writing stuff. And as guys said, and their wives and girlfriends, Robert, you should write a book. You should go on Oprah. This could be a bestseller. No pressure there. Um, and then so when I did shop the book, and my agent said, well, maybe we should change the name. I go, non-negotiable, because
Mm.
it is, it's paradoxical. Because
Yes.
probably everybody has said, no more Mr. Nice Guy. I'm not taking it anymore.
Yeah.
But when you see that on the cover of a book, you see, why would someone write a book teaching men to be not nice? There's enough not
Mm.
nice guys out there.
Mm.
And then a lot of men, especially women, grasp it quickly. Women seem to get it quickly. They start, oh yeah, yeah, I know that guy. That's my dad, or that's my brother, or that's my ex. Guys go, oh no, am I going to become an asshole? Am I going to become a jerk? Women say they don't like assholes and jerks. I listen to a
Yeah.
lot of them complain. And so men tend to think, well, that means I must go from being this wussy doormat over to this asshole that just treats everybody bad. And so, once they get into No More Mr. Nice Guy, they realize that's not what it is. Because
Mm.
I think both the passive male and the aggressive male are just actually on the same continuum of trying to manage their anxiety. They're both in
Yeah.
fight, flight, freeze. The
Yeah.
the passive male's over here, in flight and freeze. The aggressive guy, he's in fight. Now, so
Mm.
if we just find some place somewhere in the middle of that,
Yeah.
that's there's no health in that. We have to rise above that. And that's where
Yes.
where I think the change begins, where men learn to be differentiated. They learn to ask, what do I want? What feels right? What's
Mm.
important? They learn to self-soothe and act
Yeah.
out and respond rather than react.
Mm.
Um, they 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 learn to have integrity. They learn to be honest. They learn to live with purpose and passion. So it's a
Mm.
big shift. And so not just the title creates that kind of cognitive dissonance.
Mm.
When your roadmap, since you were a little boy, says, be good, don't be a moment's problem, don't have needs, put
Right.
everybody else first, don't rock the boat, hide your sexuality, don't
Mm.
talk about it. And then all of a sudden we're saying, embrace everything about you. Embrace your sexuality, your wants, your needs. Talk about it.
Mm.
Ask for what you want. All of a sudden, guys are going,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to die. People are going to kill
Well,
me.
this is it, because it comes back to the root of it is quite often a childhood experience, this combination between abandonment and egocentricity of a child. Like what is like the powerful combination of those two combined?
We'll get back into our child development a little bit more here. Um, all children are born egocentric, narcissistic. I
Mm.
mean, it's not bad. It's,
Hmm.
it's, it's a survival thing.
Survival, yeah.
They have to be all about me.
Yeah.
You mix that with they're also totally dependent. Humans are the longest maturing animal to maturity of
Mm.
any animal,
Mm.
right? And that keeps getting longer. In our grandparents' generation, 12, 14, they were out there, being responsible. My
Yeah.
generation is 18 to 21. Now it's like 35, but before young men, start taking on responsibility. So
Right.
that keeps getting longer, that maturity
Mm.
of development. So what happens for every infant, because we're totally dependent on our caregivers to be attentive to us, to respond in timely, consistent, judicious ways, to feed us when we're hungry, to change us when we're
Mm.
dirty, to hold us when we're sad, to burp us when we got gas, to, wrap us up if we're cold. We're totally dependent. And our thinking brain, our prefrontal cortex, it's just beginning to develop. Doesn't even become online enough to communicate with words till about 2, and,
Mm.
and doesn't finish developing in men till about age 25. So that means all this online is our emotional brain. It is just all survival. The amygdala that manages fight, flight, freeze, respiration, heart rate, that's fully functioning at birth.
Mm.
So everything that happens to a child gets internalized as an emotional memory. I call them abandonments in No More Mr. Nice Guy, but it's as simple as you're hungry and you don't get fed right away. You know, you poop in your diaper and nobody's there to change it right away. You know, you're lonely and you're crying and nobody comes to pick you up. And it's not that even anybody abused you or abandoned you, but it felt uncomfortable. It felt painful. The child from that narcissistic state, and we're talking emotions here, not thought, internalizes what's wrong with me. You know, I'm the cause of that. And again, I'm putting it in words, even though it's not words, which is kind of hard to explain to
Yep.
people. It's kind of like people that have a spiritual experience and try to put it in words.
Yeah.
Can't do
It
it.
becomes a belief system or a paradigm, as you call it, I guess.
Yeah, it becomes a roadmap so it takes on two roles in every human being. And because of this narcissistic, I must be the cause of these painful things.
Yeah.
So what a child tries to do, again, without words, with a very primitive brain, almost like a brain of a puppy, you know, to just number one, how do I soothe these feelings I'm having, these uncomfortable feelings? So some babies cry, some babies sleep, some babies eat, some babies stick their thumb in their mouth. I sucked my thumb till I was in kindergarten. You think maybe I was soothing uncomfortable feelings. So every child will do things to soothe the uncomfortable feelings. And it's like we develop a thermostat inside of us. You know, we have a thermostat in our room, and if the temperature gets too hot, too cold, it kicks in. It cools it off, warms it up. And if the thermostat's doing its job well, we don't even notice the temperature change, right? We have an emotional thermostat. Every human does. So that thermostat kicks in. Oh, make these feelings go away. The second thing every little infant's trying to do with a very primitive brain, not a thinking brain, is how do I prevent these uncomfortable experiences from happening in the future? Every child does this. Every child grows up to be an adolescent, and those same things are still in play in adolescent. How do I not feel bad? How do I prevent bad feelings? That gets cemented through adolescence into adulthood. Thermostat, how do I not feel bad? How do I prevent these bad feelings? That looks different in everybody. In the nice guy, it's that I'll become what I think other people want me to be, and I'll hide anything about me that might get a negative reaction. So I give to get, I hide my feelings, my needs, my wants, and you know, I try to be nice. Now, throw in that basic temperament. You know, at times my mother would tell women I was dating. I mean, this is in adulthood. This is even probably as recently as, you know, my wife, who I've been married to for 7.5 years. She would, out of the blue at times, say, Bobby never did like conflict. And I'm going, who in the hell likes conflict? I seem to marry women who do, but you know, I don't. That's my temperament. I'm not you know, like I don't go around picking fights. I'd rather say, can we just talk about this? You know, why do we have to withdraw? Why do we have to get angry? Why do we have to yell? Why do we have to threaten? Let's just talk about it. That's my temperament, right? And so a lot of nice guys have a temperament that's pretty easygoing, right? And then you add that conditioning from childhood, and then maybe add cultural conditioning to it, and this is where we end up having podcasts talking about nice guys.
Yeah, well, I'm grateful we get to have this conversation because there's so much of this is like I really revel in the paradox because the nice guy's not so nice, and you know I think it starts with the covert contracts and then the victim triangle. Like, let's go there, shall we?
Yeah, and I lead in that really early in No More Mr. Nice Guy because that maybe is the big stick upside the head of a lot of nice guys as they go, I'm a nice guy. Well, why wouldn't people appreciate that? Why wouldn't people value that? Why wouldn't people appreciate and say, hey, way to go, you're a good guy? And instead, how come, you know, no good deed goes unpunished? Everything I try to do, you know, well, I get rejected or I get yelled at or I get accused of stuff. So, you know, we got two things here, both covert contracts and victim triangles. They're both good, so we'll talk about it. I'll start with covert contracts. One of the things that a lot of people, men and women, tell me that they get out of No More Mr. Nice Guy is that concept of the covert contract. And since writing the book, I've kind of even boiled it down a little bit cleaner. And most nice guys and nice girls too. I mean, there's lots and lots of women following this same paradigm. There's something wrong with me. I'm not good enough. I have to become what I think other people want me to be. I got to hide anything about me to get a negative reaction. And it may show up a little bit differently in men and women, but not all that much. A lot of women write me, say, I love your book. Thank you. And so the covert contracts, there's three of them for most nice guys. Most operate more in one than the other, but usually we have some degree of all three. The first one is if I'm a good guy or a good girl in that matter, I will be liked and loved. Now, where this plays out for a lot of nice guys, men, is that it also tied in there is sex. If I'm a good guy, this woman I'm using nice guy seduction on, let's say be single. Oh, I'm listening to her talk about her problems. I'm different than her ex, the jerk she's complaining about. Oh, I'll make her first month's car payment for her because she's broke. I'll do this. I'm a nice guy. She's gonna like me and want to have sex with me. Then when she basically puts him in the friend zone, he goes, "Wait a minute, I did all of this. You
Yeah,
should,
yeah,
you should want to." All the while, he had his sexual agenda hidden completely from her. But if
yeah.
I'm a good guy, I'll be liked and loved.
Mm.
Covert contract number two. This is so sneaky. If I read your mind and give to you what you want without you having to ask, you will read my mind and give to me what I want without me having to ask. Now, the truth is, we're actually terrible mind readers. We're giving to get. We're caretaking versus caring. Caretaking is when I give to you what I need to give to you, so you'll
Yeah.
value me and you'll be better. And caring is when I give what really benefits you the most.
Yes.
What do you really need in this moment?
No
And I have
strings attached.
no strings attached, none. So that and plus the other part of that covert contract number two, nice guys are terrible receivers because we think we're doing something wrong if we let people give to us. We're going to be in trouble. We're going to owe them something. So, I'm going to be found out that I'm going to be found out, whatever. So
Mm.
that's covert contract number two. If I give to
Mm.
you without having to ask, you'll give to me without me having to ask.
Mm.
Covert contract number three is if I do everything right, then I will have a smooth, problem-free life. It's very Peter Panish.
Right.
The world should be smooth and go the way I want it to all the time. That's
Mm.
probably the little boy that your wife married. Oh, I'm going to throw a tantrum when things don't go the way I want them to because they're supposed to go the way I want them to. I did A, therefore B should happen. It's very simplistic first order thinking. But that's the covert contract of nice guys as well. But one of the problems is, you know, who does everything right and who's the decider of that? Nice guys have this big scoreboard in their living room. I did this right. I did this right. Oh, you did that wrong. Uh-oh, I'm winning. I'm winning. The balance is out of whack. You can't bring anything up now because I've built up a bank account of good things I did right. So you can never, point out any flaw in me. And because we do get kind of reactive if people criticize us or point out something maybe we could have done better or that we
Listening to
didn't do.
justify and defend.
There we go. I call it that deer response: defend, excuse, explain, and rationalize. And I've since added to that vindicate. I love vindicating myself. I didn't do that.
I cannot
Yeah,
confirm or deny I've ever taken that strategy.
yeah. So then what happens if we plug this into the victim triangle? Now, I've heard it called various things. I did not invent this. Covert
Yes.
contracts, I think, is original to No More Mr. Nice Guy. But the codependent triangle, victim triangle, there's different names to it. There's three parts to it. And why it's illustrative is that most people don't realize they typically at some point play all three parts. Most people think it's fairly rigid, especially in codependent relationships. Oh, we have the fixer, we have the fixee, but it's a little bit more when you add a third point in there. So you have the fixer. So the fixer, oh, I'm going to do this for you, and just to kind of zoom back a little bit. I don't use the word codependency in No More Mr. Nice Guy. And I did that on purpose because when I wrote the book, started writing it 30 years ago, the only context where people used the word codependency was either in partners of addicts, like, spouses or family members of alcoholic drug addicts. And it had begun to be used with just women's niceness, women who love too much, Pia Melody, people like that were mainly writing to women in that codependent role. So I didn't use the term codependent because I really wanted to talk to men without people getting a preconceived idea and projection. So let's talk about this as a dynamic without I put a term on it, nice guy syndrome or covert contracts. But it is codependency. And another term I really like for codependency, because it's really more descriptive and helpful, because most people go, what does codependency even mean? I like the term borrowed functioning, which means my identity, my value, my role, my reason for being is
Mm.
tied into you. I get
Mm.
value from my interaction with you. So my
Mm.
borrowed function is I get value as the helper, the fixer, the problem solver, the rescuer, the white knight,
Mm.
because you have problems, you have
Mm.
needs, you need fixed. I can help that, right? That's
Mm.
my role where I get a sense of value and identity. Now, of course, many problems with that role. One is it doesn't tend to get us what we want or need.
Mm.
It doesn't tend to
Mm.
attract competent people who can actually
Mm.
contribute to a relationship very well.
Mm.
Other problems is we get our entire value out of giving and you needing me. And another problem is that if you ever start getting better and don't need me anymore, I've lost a job. I'm unemployed. And so
Mm.
unconsciously, I will either need to keep you in that spot, or if you start getting better, I'll go find somebody else over here that
Mm.
needs me. And all of a sudden, the nice guy's caught up in an affair with some young single mother, or, and his wife's going, what just happened? Wasn't about sex. It was about borrowed functioning.
Mm.
I needed somebody who needed me. So going back to our victim triangle, you have the rescuer, and they're rescuing, and until all of a sudden it's not going the way we thought it should, and all of a sudden we become the victim.
Mm.
And when we've been victimized, I've been done too. I gave, I didn't get back. I got punished, And then from that victim place, we tend to go into the persecutor. We lash
Mm.
out. We
Mm.
become we have what I call victim pukes, where that
Yeah.
that thing that's stored up for 6 months comes out. We become passive aggressive. Our anger
Mm.
gets directed indirectly, or maybe we just even become out and out hostile. Then after we do that for just a little bit, because now all of a sudden that makes us really uncomfortable. Like, oh no, I'm going to get abandoned. I'm going to get in trouble. That makes me like dad. That makes me like all the
Right.
jerks. We go back over to rescuer again. Oh, I can fix that. Oh, we're apologizing. We're saying we're
Mm.
sorry. We're trying to make everything good. Everything all right? You okay? Can I do anything? We're back in, that fixer role until that doesn't get appreciated or valued, and we go into victim role. I've been done too. From the victim role, we'll go into the persecutor role, and it just
Mm.
and everybody involved moves through those 3 points. Rarely is one person just stagnant in any of those three.
Mm. That's powerful. One of the things that kind of came up as you were speaking was my previous guest, a chap called John Eldridge, who's written a number of books from a Christian perspective on masculinity.
And people will ask me about his books. And
Yeah.
by the way, and I don't know him,
Mm-hmm.
but I come out of a fundamental Christian background. I have two
Mm-hmm.
degrees in religion, and I was a
Mm.
minister for 8 years. So I'm not religious now. But I really like Wild at Heart, because I
Yeah.
know how hard it must have been in a
Mm.
conservative, evangelical Christian environment to write that book. So I have great respect for John Eldridge
Oh, I
and
love
that
that.
Wild at Heart book.
Love that. One of the things that he said in my conversation with him is that if a man has no sense of self, he'll take that to the woman. And that's kind of what came up to me as you were speaking, because as a young man, I found this topic of leadership. I was quite effective. And when you're using management speak, it's like, oh, it's emotional intelligence, it's situational leadership. In reality, there was probably an undertone of like chameleon, social chameleon. And there
Okay,
was
yeah.
definitely some elements of me taking that sense of self to my wife, my partner. Tell me who I am. Tell me you love me. Like the running joke has always been like, I'm needy, and
Mhm.
I think for me, it's words of affirmation. Like, tell me you love me. Tell me you need me.
Yeah.
And tell us why that is deeply unattractive to women. Why is that repelling? Or maybe the opposite is, why is a sense of self really attractive?
Yeah. Well, let's come at it from both sides of it, because men, at least the men I work, I love working with men. My background, my doctorate's in marriage and family therapy. For
Mm.
25 years, I had private practice working with couples and individuals, and then started leading men's groups. And so by the time 12 so years ago, when I kind of wrapped up private practice back in the States and moved to Mexico, I was leading 5 men's groups a week.
Mm.
Now I just all my work's with men, so I love working with men. But
Mm.
but 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 men, Yeah, we get black and white about stuff, and sometimes it takes a really big stick. My
Mm.
most recent book is called The Big Stick,
Yeah.
mainly because I say it so much that you can take a big stick upside men's head, and they'll go, "Thank you," I appreciate that, and so one of the things. So let's talk with the neediness first. Now in my men's program. You and I both got our t-shirts on. So you're self-promoting. There we go.
Yeah, yeah, love
So
it. Love it.
I'm actually teaching a series of lessons right now on getting your needs met
Mm.
and validating that of course we have needs, of course we have wants,
Mm.
and how to get our needs met without being needy. Because I
Mm.
think probably most men have kind of heard that term. Well, you're so needy. Your
Mhm.
neediness creeps me out, things like that. And so all of a sudden that reinforces this thing. Well, I shouldn't have needs because it creeps women out. The problem is when men try to anybody tries to get their needs met using those covert contracts, those
Mm.
indirect manipulative strings attached. I'll give this to you and you'll give back. I'll be the good guy and then you'll value me. All of those things, it's basically we're coming from this no sense of real self, like I say, no real
Mm.
identity here, a chameleon. And we're coming for lack of, this is probably the most functional way to put it. We got an empty bucket. Our
Yeah.
bucket's empty. It's got a hole in the bottom. And we're going out there trying to get it filled in these
Mm.
indirect, passive ways. Now, I'll talk a little bit, back up a little bit, talk a little bit about masculine, feminine polarity, masculine, feminine energies. To make it really simple, I define masculine as the doer. It's a very
Mm.
simple way of looking
Mm.
at it, and feminine is being done to. Masculine is internally validated through masterful action. Feminine is externally validated through attention, through desire, through praise. Right? The feminine is that empty bucket with the hole in the bottom. I'm not talking about women. You and I both have a masculine and a feminine side. Like
Mhm.
you, I've got a pretty strong feminine side. I love the flow of energy. I love connection. I love
Mm.
good communication. But I've also got a masculine side that I like getting shit done. Let's not talk about it. Let's do it. So that's very masculine. But I've had to develop my masculine side quite a bit because I was
Mhm.
pretty much trained to be more in my feminine, and a lot
Mhm.
of men are. So the feminine is need. It's need, right? It needs to be filled externally. And if we haven't been taught how to surround ourselves with resources to help fill our own bucket, that's
Mm.
a masculine act. It's taking responsibility for my needs and my wants.
Mhm.
And if we haven't done that, we're going to be pretty empty and needy. And then so if we go to the feminine creatures in our life with this emptiness, it's like a big emotional hose. They're
Mm.
already a bigger feminine bucket with a bigger hole in the bottom. And
Mm.
like we come with this emotional hose and they're going like this. No, no, stop. And what I discovered is that especially what men will do, especially in relationship, but even, yeah, single guys do this, in terms of trying to build a relationship, men in relationship do it. One of the primary ways we know how to get our needs met is through sex. Oh, if you'll have sex with me, all my need, everything's better. All my physical needs are met, my emotional needs are met, my social needs are met. I feel valuable, I feel loved, I feel desired. Oh, those are all feminine things. And we take that and maybe we're not getting our needs met for connection with men. Maybe we're not living with purpose or passion in our life. Maybe we're, I call it hanging out in the nursery. We're surfing the internet, playing video games, smoking dope, jacking off to porn on the internet. And that doesn't fill the bucket up. I call
Mm.
that junk. That's all junk food. It doesn't
Mm.
fill us. So then we go to the woman with this big hose in the form of sexuality. But what it really is, here's our neediness right here. And we put
Mm.
a sexual desire on top of that. Go to a woman if we're a single dude, it's to a woman, we're trying to seduce. If it's to our girlfriend or wife, it's, oh, have sex with me, want me, desire me. And then the woman goes like that.
Mm.
And we think a couple of things. Well, my sex is bad. Women reject me for being sexual. No, it wasn't about the sex at all. It was
Mm.
about saying to this female creature, open and let me enter you with this big empty neediness and
Mm.
suck the living daylights out of you because I'm so empty. That's what they're going like that to,
Mm.
not the sexuality. It's
Mm.
the needy. That's why it's repulsive to the feminine. The feminine wants to be filled, not drained. Right? It
Cared,
already
not
feels empty
caretaken.
enough, and not caretaken. And that's why I
Mm,
say that and this takes a while for people to grasp, but I say
yeah,
that the masculine is love. The masculine is a source of love. The feminine
yeah,
is the
yeah.
consumer or seeker of love. And I say the masculine source of love, like if you go to Scott Peck's definition of love, is basically intention and action for one's or another's spiritual development or
Mm,
self-interest. Intention and action are masculine traits.
mm, mm,
So men, I say, have to learn to husband our own feminine,
yeah.
and we have to fill our own bucket up. Then we can fill the bucket up of the feminine around us. Now, once our bucket is full and
Mm,
overflowing, that becomes highly attractive to all
mm.
things feminine
Yeah, yeah,
because the
yeah, yeah.
feminine wants to be filled. And I say feminine is women, babies, dogs, cats. Where's Nala? She's sitting right behind me. She's usually right. It's my female pit bull. She's usually right here at my feet. She loves my masculine energy.
Yeah,
But money, opportunity, adventure, those are all feminine, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And a statement that I'll make at times, and usually if I'm talking to like a female coach, female dating coach, and I'll say something like the feminine is highly attracted to a man who's comfortable in his own
Mm,
skin, knows where he's going, and looks like he's having a good time going there. The
mm.
female coaches always go, ah, that's it. The
Yeah,
feminine goes, that's a full man. I
yeah, yeah, yeah.
want that. I want that
Yes.
depth of connection. That full man can fill me. Now, of course, a woman has a masculine. She can husband her own feminine as
Mm,
well. But what I've noticed is a lot of times once women get into their masculine, they don't get out of it very easily. Once they get
mm.
into that doing role, it's kind of like I don't know if your wife's like this, but you start cleaning the house. You think, well, let's just straighten up here, or let's just clean up this room, and then go for a walk, or go for a drive,
Yeah.
or go see a movie. But the feminine starts cleaning the house and gets in that masculine. No, we're not stopping till the entire house is clean. Every toilet is scrubbed with a toothbrush. Everything's spotless. And the guy's just going, isn't it good enough? And the woman's going, no, because it just seems like feminine goes into masculine. They don't come out easily. So that means a
Mm,
lot of women are walking around with big empty buckets.
yeah.
Their own feminine side is not being nurtured. And then
Yeah.
if they get with kind of little boy nice guys, and we're going, indirectly and manipulatively, fill me, please, like me, love me, have sex with me, please. And all of a sudden they're going, I got stuff to do. It feels like almost one more masculine demand, when we
Yeah.
want to have sex.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really powerful, I've definitely been that kind of young man that was having a virtue of being without need. You talk about,
A
a nice a
virtue.
nice guy,
Yeah.
nice guy. I
Yeah.
still believe that it's important to come to a relationship not without need, but having fully met my need. And I feel like as I've done that over the last 3 to 5 years, things like getting up early, going to the gym, hanging around good masculine guys who are on,
Yeah.
grafting, good guys together, having a good counsel,
Yeah.
um, ice baths, eating well, trying to be the best that I can be, reading good books, having good conversations. Like 3 to 5 years later, I'm feeling the fruits of this dynamic
Yeah.
that's now changed, right? Like
Your
things are
bucket's full. Your bucket's
right.
full.
I'm late 30s and my marriage is more on fire now, without being crude, than it's ever been. And
Yeah.
it's a paradox, right? I'm still the same guy, but I'm coming to the marriage in such a more, I guess, a grounded perspective.
And again, the feminine is highly attracted to that. The
Yeah.
feminine wants to be opened by that. The feminine wants to submit to that. The feminine
Mm,
wants to be penetrated by that kind of conscious fullness, right?
mm,
Masculine is all about the fullness, and the feminine is all about, everything that's not nailed down. And it's drawn to that, what I'll call it masculine frame.
mm.
And a term that one of my clients used one time in a workshop that just I really liked is talking about creating the masculine frame for the feminine flow. So
Right.
you create the masculine frame of all those things you talk about.
Yeah.
Now the feminine, your own feminine flow, the
Mm.
muse, your creativity, your
Yeah.
spontaneity, these great things you can
Yeah.
create come once you've created the masculine frame for it, right?
Safety and
Like
trust.
Safety and trust are essential for the feminine, and then the
Mm.
feminine can relax and
Yeah.
open and be filled and be penetrated when there's that
Mm.
safety and trust. So when your feminine partner, well, when your own feminine, your own internal feminine sees,
Yeah.
I can trust this guy. Believe it
Mm.
or not, we can be misogynistic towards our own feminine. Our own feminine can go, I don't trust you, asshole. You're not safe. You don't have any structure. You don't have any discipline.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
not
yeah.
filled. And so when the more you create the structures like what you created, your own
Yeah.
feminine flourishes, and then
Mm.
the feminine around us flourishes as well because we're created that masculine frame for the feminine flow
Mm.
that gets expressed in it gets expressed in creativity and
Right.
just great, amazing, serendipitous, spontaneous.
Mm.
I wasn't looking for that kind of
Yeah.
experiences.
Well, I think 1 + 1 = 3, meaning the masculine and the feminine. When we integrate those two, it brings forth new creation to the world, right? So I think,
Well, you see that
if
the whole yin and yang
right,
diagram. Yeah, there is an interdependence between. It's not like, oh, I'm just masculine or I'm just
right,
feminine.
yeah,
There is a flow and an interconnectedness between them, and when they are consciously
yeah.
interconnected, yeah, it's amazing.
With John Gray from Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, he said on the podcast that when either men are too much in their feminine or women are too much in their masculine, hormonally it's an addiction. It's almost like
Hormonally, it's an addiction.
there's
That's
something on a hormonal level in our biology that we become addicted to.
and it creates what I call a reverse polarity.
Mm,
And to have polarity, you have to have a masculine and feminine
yeah,
pole, right?
yeah.
Now, I'm a big believer that, especially in modern relationships, the best relationships have do have a flux to them. There is
Hmm.
a flow where the two partners, and this would have, I mean, heterosexual relationships, gay
Yes.
relationships, lesbian relationships. If you look at gay and lesbian relationships, that masculine feminine polarity is usually more pronounced than even it is in most heterosexual
Mm,
relationships. It's kind of like they know you need a pitcher and a catcher, you need a top and a bottom, you need
mhm, mhm.
polarity. Now, what happens, what I think where we can get dysfunctional and toxic is locking in. Well, you're the guy, you have to be masculine all the time. You're the
Yeah, yeah,
girl,
yeah,
you have to
yeah,
be feminine all the time.
yeah,
And we all do have a masculine and feminine
yeah,
energetic
yeah.
polarity. I'm talking about energetic states here, not the genitalia or
Hmm.
chromosomes. Energetic, and it is fluid.
Mm,
When I tell my wife, wait for me, I'll open your door. I'm in my masculine. She's submitting into her feminine, and she generally
willfully.
likes that. Well, my wife is one of the strongest people you'd ever meet. She grew up
Mm,
8 out of 10 in poverty in Guadalajara, Mexico.
yeah.
Family abuse, neighbors beating her up, abused by priests, abused by everybody. And she's tough. She's a gym rat. She goes in the gym 2 hours a day. She's done Muay Thai. She's done kickboxing. I don't mess with her. She's tough. She's masculine. She gets things done. When the cars need worked on, she takes the cars. When we need the carpenter, when we need the glass, I call her my mafiosa. I love getting her. She gets on the phone chewing these people out and says, you said it was going to be here last week. When is it? My husband says, if it's not here today, to come down and get my deposit back. She's tough. She's
Yeah, yeah.
tough. And she's as feminine as she can be. She'll get down on the floor and love on the pit bull and chew on the pit bull's face. And she loves it when she says, I love it when you tell me no. We walk into a restaurant. We live in Mexico, and my wife doesn't speak much English at all. So I've had to learn. I got to learn Spanish, which I was grateful for. We'll walk in a restaurant, and the waiters will talk to her, of course, here in Mexico, and they'll go, should I give him a menu in English? And she goes, no, he lives in Mexico. Give him the menu in Spanish. And I'll go, yeah, give my wife and kids the menu in English. They need to work on their English.
Yeah.
Then the waiter hands my wife the menu, and she goes, no, he's my boss. He'll order for me. And I joke, oh, I get to be the boss when she says I can't. It's just this running
Yeah,
shtick that,
yeah.
that we've got. But and she can order, of course she can. She can open her own door. Like I said, she can get shit done like nobody's business. But she loves it when she comes to me and asks, when she holds up two outfits, which one, honey? I go, oh, they both look good. Either one. No, she doesn't want that. She
100%.
wants she wants me to kind of, you know, use my spidey sense to know which one she's really wanting to wear, right,
Right.
and show up. And maybe it's usually even 3 outfits most of the time. Three I've
Yeah.
never seen before. And I'm going, they all look good. I know she wants to wear all 3 of them, but she wants to wear one more than the other. And I go, yeah, I like the black one. And if her
We
face,
we have to
I
drop the
go,
martial arts. We have to drop the martial arts in the brain, don't we? We have to go, we have to drop this idea of
yeah,
what is she wanting me to say versus
yeah,
what do I genuinely think? Because that's going to build the
you do.
trust in our opinion.
Yeah, and then I go, and then if she puts something on and comes out and she goes, "Do you like it?" And I tell you what, if you don't, you better tell her. You better
Yes.
say, it's not the best look on you. And
Right.
they're a little disappointed. They go, "You're right. I need to change." But if you
Great.
said, "Oh, baby, it looks good. It looks fine. It looks great. I know it's a new outfit. I know." But if you say it's not your best look, then they
100%.
trust you. Then they trust you.
Exactly. Takes a brave man. This is something I've definitely learned. Like it creates that initial, oh, damn you asshole. But the bits after, she's like, when I give that compliment, oh, there you go. That's just how I love it.
That's it. That's the one. Yeah. Now,
Yeah. I've often found, particularly in a parenting situation, if my wife and I are fighting for the middle ground of polarity, we both lose. Everybody loses, right? We're
there is
fighting
no
for the
middle
middle
ground.
ground.
Yeah.
Right. I found that
Oh,
the
and
more
well, let me say one last thing. Let me finish that
go
last
on,
thought
go on.
but then we'll come back. Polarity is not determined by, your chromosomes or your genitalia.
Mm,
But what I do believe that if the most fundamentally masculine person in the relationship tends to take responsibility for setting
mm,
the tone and taking the lead, it gets the ball rolling. And I tell
yeah.
guys, when I talk to men about setting the tone and leading in relationship, they go, "Okay, Dr. Glover, I know you say take control." I go, "No, no, 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 no. You'll never hear me use the word take control. It's hard enough to control ourselves, let alone control a person or
Mm,
situation." I say lead. And all that really means is just get the ball rolling, show up with an
mm.
idea, have at least the beginnings of a plan and say, "Hey, babe, how about we go get Chinese tonight?" Rather than saying, "What do you want to do tonight, dear?" In general,
Yeah.
women, I've listened to women for over 25 years in counseling.
Yes.
Women hate that. Women hate that. I come home from work. I've been dealing with the kids all day. I've been around, and he puts one more decision on me that I got to make. And they
Yes.
go, "Just tell us what we're going to do and what you want me to wear, and let's go do it." Now, and the men will say, "Well, do I have to be the lead all the time? Do I have to always set the tone?" And I go, "No, you don't. But let's accept it as your default role. It's like you're on the dance floor. If you don't
Yeah.
lead on the dance floor, she's got nothing to follow."
Yeah.
But in healthy reciprocal relationships, like I said, my wife's strong.
Mm,
I give, "Hey, honey, make the decision on that. Whatever you think's best."
mm,
And then sex. You know,
mm,
Sexual polarity, you do have to have a doer and a done to, right?
mm,
Otherwise, it's not sex. It's two people lying next to each other waiting for something to happen. So there's got to be a
mm,
dominant and submissive pole, pitcher catcher. But
mm.
in good sex, that trades off, right?
Yeah.
But I found that in most things, relationship wise, if the more default masculine character gets the ball rolling through proactive action, the more feminine opens and follows. But he or she still has enough of a masculine that they have their wants. Can we do it this way? All right, hey, I'm getting on top now. Whatever it may be. But something's got to get that ball rolling, and it's the masculine pole that gets things moving.
Yeah, it's really interesting in a relationship dynamic. Particularly many women that I've had the pleasure of speaking to over the years, they've they've developed coping mechanisms to deal with a less masculine partner, shall we say,
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah.
have
Yeah, I've
therefore
heard a
had
lot of
to
that.
so they've had to take the lead more often. But the paradox then is when she takes the lead, is more responsible for his development than he is. Like there's just this jarring. I think John Gray likened it to saying that if a woman can love a man for as he is, he will go and improve himself.
Yeah.
If you try and change a man, it feels very unloving because you're not accepting of who he is in this moment. Like you
But
must have
there's
had
one
these
more
conversations all
there's
the
one more
time, right?
piece to it. Oh yeah, yeah, but there's another piece to it. If I heard David Davis say one time, if a woman tells a man what to do and he does it, she just polarized him into his feminine.
Mm,
Okay. So here's the thing. Let's say your wife loves you and wants you to be your best. She can see your potential. She
hmm
would not have married you. She would not have started dating you at 15. You were just a boy. but she saw your potential. And the feminine will go to the bank on potential. It really will. And so she saw your potential. She sees what you can be. And when you're anything less than that, it's painful for her. It
Mm.
hurts her.
Mm.
Not only because she loves you and she sees you being less than you could be, it also means she has to raise her masculine up.
Right.
And I will often say, most women can be the strongest person in the room, but most don't want to be, at least not all the time, and at least not with their partner,
Mm.
right? So, but here's the we talk about paradoxes again. She
Yeah.
loves you and she says, "Hon, you really need to work on this. You really need to pay attention to this." Like I said, my wife's a
Mm.
gym rat. I'm not. I like to take care of myself. I like to be in good health and good shape. We have a gym in our house. We have Olympic weights. We got a spin bike. We have TRX. We got punching bag. We got dumbbells. We got kettlebells. We got everything. And, I got to make myself walk out of my office around the corner into the gym. She works out here at the house, then walks to another gym where they've got other equipment she wants.
Mm.
And so, when I don't work out regularly, it hurts her trust
Yeah.
because she knows I know I need to work out regularly. It's even worse if I say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to work out today," and then I don't get to it. That's
Mm.
like me telling her a lie, right? And she'll see, "Oh, how can I trust anything else? He says he's going to go to the gym and he doesn't. How can I trust it?" So there's all of that.
Mm.
But
Mm.
the bigger piece is she knows I'm better than that. She knows what I'm capable of. She sees me. She tells me all the time,
Mm.
in Spanish, "Robert, you're grande. Tú eres mejor. You're a big man." She sees men
Mm.
come to my house for workshops here, and they praise me to her.
Mm.
She's heard me speak in public, and she said, "You're a big man. You're great. You're amazing." She sees that, and then when she sees me play small or not live up to that, it hurts her. Okay, but now here's the flip.
Mm.
If I go to the gym because I know she's going to be upset at me if I don't, or if I'm doing it just to please her, or I'm
Yeah.
doing it because I don't want her on my case.
Yep.
I've been polarized into my feminine. She's actually setting the tone, and I'm following that lead and responding. Now, that may be not a bad thing on occasion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it got me started, it got me in here,
Mm-hmm.
but you know what? I need to keep going to the gym because it's for me. It's
Yeah.
good for me. I need the discipline. I need the structure. I need everything that does. Then all of a sudden, my wife will respond to
Yes.
that masculine, powerful part of me. But if I keep working on me in any way, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to
Yeah.
work
Yeah.
on this. I'm going to go to a men's group because she told me to. I'm going to go to therapy because I'm going to read books because she told me to. I'm going to try to be the good man she wants me to be. You're actually still in your feminine seeking external validation and
Mm.
praise and acceptance, and you'll never get it. That'll never make her happy.
Mm.
At some point, you got to do it on your terms because you know that it's in a sense you require it of you. The universe requires it of you. Your fate requires it of you. Then your wife's going, that's the man I fell in love with when he was
Yeah.
15. I saw that in him back then.
Well, and that's the bit I was kind of getting at with the polarity in the middle ground. The more that we
Yeah.
step into our polarity, the more we realize the absolute value that we inherently bring that each other just isn't there to provide. There's
Yeah.
something uniquely in this and something uniquely in this. Rather than you expect me to be this and I expect you to be that, how about we just be the brightest versions of us both? And that actually pulls us further apart, but actually makes it so much more connected.
Yeah. And you mentioned parenting, and that's a good place to look at it. As I said, my doctorate in training is marriage and family therapy. So even though marriage therapy was kind of my wheelhouse, I did a lot of family
Mhm.
counseling as well. And I would tell parents, the job of healthy, conscious parents is to protect the child from the other parent.
Mm.
It may sound a little bit weird at first, but
Hmm.
the context of it is you got flaws in you as a parent. Your wife
Mm.
has flaws in her as a parent. I tell people, most people parent either exactly the same way our parents parented, heaven forbid,
Mm.
or the exact opposite of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
way our parents parented, which is not healthy either. The opposite of crazy is still crazy. And
yeah.
so you're just reacting. You're not
Yeah,
giving
yeah.
your child what your child needs. So you're going to bring your parenting and your temperament. Your wife's going to bring her temperament, her parenting. And you both bring value to that parenting team. but you also bring some baggage.
Mm.
And your job is to help protect the children from her baggage in a loving way that doesn't throw her under the bus.
Yes.
Her job is to protect the kids from your baggage in a loving way that
Yes.
doesn't throw them under the bus.
Yes.
A pretty common parenting pattern. I've raised kids in three families. My
Hmm.
biological son in my first marriage, two stepkids in my second marriage, two more stepkids in my third marriage. This is kind of fun now because my two stepkids don't speak English. Some, they're in school. They're 18 and 16 now. I came into their life about 10 years ago, but they're the same age as my granddaughter. So in a way,
Hmm.
I kind of get to bring kind of grandfather love to my
Hmm.
stepkids,
Hmm.
mainly because I couldn't speak their language when I first came into their
Mm.
life. So I just loved them a lot. So
Mm.
what usually happens in my parenting systems with the women I get with, the women tend to be, for lack of a better term, the yellers. The ones that, start screaming at the kids and go on, just verbal barrage. And, the kids after a while learn to just tune it out. They really do. And I'm a little bit more of, I don't want the kids mad at me. I don't want them upset. I want them, but so I can be, I've been accused of, well, you're trying to befriend the kids and, make them like you. And probably there's some of that. I probably bring some of that. But another piece that I also bring is that calmness. And also all my four stepkids that I've raised in two different marriages would rather get disciplined by me than by their biological mother. Because, the mother's coming in, hot. Yeah, 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 yeah. And they're going, here we go again. They're checking their watch. How long do I have to listen to mom going off on it?
Yeah, yeah.
And then, finally later on, I'll butter mom up a little bit and it'll all get back to good. My approach is I say, okay, listen, we're not going to do it that way. I mean, I'm talking about that level. We're not going to
Mm.
do it that way.
Mhm.
Here's how we're going to do it. You understand? If you
Yeah.
continue to do it that way, there'll be consequences. You
Yeah.
understand? Do we need to
Mm.
talk about what those consequences are? Okay. So you understand where we're at? Yeah. My conversation's 45 seconds at the most.
Mm.
Calm with clarity of here's how we're going to do it. It's very masculine. It's going to be
Mm.
done within this frame. Understand? And
Mm.
and the kids go, uh-huh, uh-huh. And then my wives would always go, oh, you always got to be the nice guy. And instead of arguing that, I'll just go, no, it's okay. It's okay. They understood me. They understood where I'm at. And
Yeah,
then
yeah,
the
yeah.
other little piece that I would do, like when my wife's helping my stepdaughter with her math. My daughter's terrible at math. Um, and my wife, they're at the table and I'm in my office and I hear my wife's voice getting louder and louder and louder and louder. And I go, that's not helping somebody who's not good at math. I know
Mm.
because I wasn't good at math.
Mm.
And instead of walking in and telling my wife, you need to quit yelling at her, that's not helping her at all.
Right.
I've told my wife, I said, listen, if I hear your voice getting louder, I'm going to walk in and give you a kiss and turn around and walk away. That's my way of communicating.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah, yeah.
think you getting loud is helping without throwing my wife under the bus.
Sure.
And
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
and
yeah.
and my time my wife, she'll take a breath.
There's a conscious
Her
reset. Yeah.
it goes down a little bit. So that's what we can do as parents. We don't have to
Yeah.
be the same. It's better that we're not the same,
But
but
there's
we can be a
grace.
team.
Yeah, yeah, there's grace for that. And I think
Yeah.
that's such a because I think it's hard when you have an enemy behind the lines, right? The
Oh,
opposite of what you're
oh,
talking about is you're being attacked for your humanity, attacked for your vulnerability and flaws, which increases the nice guy hide all the resentment or
yeah. Because what I've seen in so many families is that enemy behind the line.
yeah,
The wife doesn't think the husband's on her side. The husband doesn't think so what they do is they both go to further extremes.
right.
You know,
And the
if
kids
if
get right
the
in the middle and exploit them.
Oh, the kids get triangulated. And the
Yeah,
kids either then act out in that triangulated way or they
yeah.
take advantage of it. They know which one to, so, mommy gets more overprotective. Daddy gets more angry. And when he sees mom being overprotective and coddling, he gets even angry at her. And when she sees
Mm.
him angry all the time, she gets even more overprotective. And they're just reenacting their own childhood stuff. We all do. We all do. But yeah, that enemy behind the line, I like that. That all of a
Yeah,
sudden, now we can protect our kids from the other without the other being the enemy. We're still a
100%.
team. We're still a
100%.
team.
Love that. Conscious of time, want to be super respectful of your time. We have definitely got the ears of people that have listened through to the end. There is either a woman here that's going, "Oh, my husband or my partner's a nice guy," or you've got a guy that might go, "Yeah, this might be me." So, what one tip do you have for the guy, and what one tip do you have for the woman to do next as a result of listening to this conversation?
But besides buying any of my books,
All of the books, all of
all
the
the books,
podcasts. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you go buy everything I sell. That's where you start.
100%.
Yeah.
Download everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know what? Here's what I start with every nice guy is go find safe people.
Yeah.
You can't do this alone. So, for example, if you start doing your nice guy work trying to please women or a woman, you're still in a nice guy mode. You're still seeking external validation. You're still accepting the feminine story of what you should be. Go find safe people. We need safe people to start releasing that toxic shame we internalized as a child. Oftentimes we don't even know it's there. I didn't know it's there until I
Mm.
started opening it up in a 12-step group. That's so powerful.
And toxic shame
Find
is just that belief that it's not okay to be who I am.
to be me. Yeah, I'm not good enough. I'm bad. I'm unlovable.
Mm.
Again, we try to put words to it, but it's an emotional belief. Uh, I'm broken. I'm not good enough, whatever.
Yeah.
And then we put behaviors and thoughts and actions and wants and wishes and impulses on top of that. That makes me bad. Well, no, we just believe we're bad. So we need a safe place to begin revealing ourselves, being supported to take on a new paradigm, getting more accurate feedback. No, no, you're not bad. Like,
Mm.
if a guy gets in a group and, a group of men and they start talking and about, a few weeks in, one of them reveals, I'm really embarrassed to share this, but, I got a problem with porn. Nobody's mentioned porn, up till now. One guy mentions it, got so much shame, feels so bad, so defective, so sinful, so evil. Maybe his wife's
Mm.
found it. She's going, maybe just whatever. And then all of a sudden, after the guy's listened to him a little bit, yeah, me too. Yeah,
Mm.
me too. Yeah, me too. All of a sudden, hey, I've got that. Whatever the issue is, now when we got a commonality, we don't feel defective. We don't feel broken. We feel normal. We feel like,
Mm.
okay, I got stuff I can work on. Doesn't make me
Yeah.
bad.
So the question I got asked recently was, okay, well, the integration, you're becoming an integrated man, is about accepting all of that. What
Yeah.
is the next practical bit? Because it's not like, okay, well, we accept the flaw in our humanity, so we continue the behavior. Where does the psychology of a man go? Because you're not saying, oh, it's fine, we'll just accept that behavior, we'll integrate,
Yeah.
and we'll just carry on the behavior.
Well, and that's another paradox there, and it's actually right here in my T-shirt.
Yeah.
The men's program that I've started, and we launched in July of 23. Our the motto mantra that I tagged on it, a tagline, whatever, is good men doing better.
Mm.
And I phrase that very specifically on purpose
Mm.
because uh, we're okay. We're not bad. We're not flawed. We're not evil.
Yeah.
Um, and we tend to associate our behaviors with our identity.
Mm.
As a friend of mine told me one time, he said, Robert, you can be a real dick, but you're not a dick.
Right.
And until you can integrate those two, okay, I can be a dick. I know I
Ah, I
can.
love that.
I
Yeah,
can be
yeah, yeah,
judgmental.
yeah,
I can be critical, but that's not me. That's not who I am. That's a
yeah,
behavior.
yeah, yeah,
So we can integrate that. I can accept that I can be a dick, but I'm not a dick. That's
yeah,
integration. So I'm a good man. I don't have to become a better man to be loved. I don't have to become a different man to be loved or accepted or valued,
yeah,
but I
yeah, yeah,
can do better. I
yeah.
can notice when I'm being a dick. I've got a little wristband and it just says do better. And this is from my program.
Mm.
Just do better.
Mm.
I can listen better. I can be more patient. I can set a better boundary. I can face fears better. I can be bolder.
Yeah.
We can all level up through
Mm.
doing better in a conscious, non judgmental way of self. All right, say I lost it in that situation. Now, if I go into a shame attack, I'm not going to learn anything from it.
Mm.
I'm just going to feel
Mm.
shame and try to repress the behaviors that led to that rather than learn from it. And
Yeah.
then anything you repress is either going to come out down here or come puking out again later. It'll happen. But if I go, okay, I'm not real proud of that behavior. How could I have done that better? Well, I could have listened more. I could have got my
Yeah.
feet grounded. I could have breathed. So the paradox is we can be good men. We
Yes.
don't have to become better men, different men, but we can do better. And one of my coaches gave me a quote the other day by I don't think he was a saint, but I think he was a religious writer, a few hundred years ago. And I'd never heard this before, and I really liked it. Like I said, I'm not religious, but I do have I know there's something, all right. Um, and the quote was, "The glory of God is man fully alive." I love that quote. The glory of God, whether you say the
Yes.
glory of the cosmos, the glory of
Yeah.
creation is creation fully alive, man fully alive. So that's man doing better. And
Well,
to go back to your question, I think we men need
mm,
other men. We need
mm,
tribe. We need our posse. We
yeah.
need men that we can reveal ourselves to, be
Mm,
vulnerable with, be supported by, be held accountable by, be
mm,
sharpened by. So that's when you ask the number one thing I recommend to men, don't do it alone. Go find a coach, therapist, men's group, preferably 12-step group where you're surrounded by males, conscious men, conscious masculine energy, and start sharpening, leveling up, not by
yes.
being better, not by,
Yes.
oh, if I get, as soon as I get rid of my porn addiction, I'll be a better person.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
No, you're not a bad person for having a porn addiction, but you can do better. You can be more conscious, more transparent, more authentic.
Mm.
Those are the things we can work on and do better, not in the goal of being better, but just being our best self.
As a byproduct. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I think Jesus said that he came so that we may live life to the fullest. And it kind of is what came up when you were speaking. And I don't think the church have done a good job of emasculating a Jesus that seems to be meek. I think if that guy was
There's a
being
whole nother podcast we could
right,
dive in.
100%. Yeah, I'm not gonna.
Like I said, I'm not religious, but I do believe in the story of Jesus,
Yeah.
and I do have 2 degrees in religion, so I can
Mm.
talk, and I've lived it, so I can talk intelligently about, just like even just quickly. When I was a youth minister, we had a joy bus program where we went out and picked the little kids up and brought them to church, and they called it Joy, and the acronym was Jesus first, others second, yourself last.
Mm.
And I thought, did they ever read the New Testament? Did they ever like listen to Jesus? Jesus, when people ask Jesus, what is the greatest law? And he said, love God with all your heart. And he said, the
Mm.
second one is just like it. So it's not different. It's not a second law. And he said, love your neighbor as yourself.
Mm.
Does anybody ever listen to that? What is the standard of all love? It's self-love. You
Mm.
can't love anyone more than you love yourself. You can't let anybody love you more than you love yourself. But yet we're supposed to be putting everybody else first and ourselves last. Jesus didn't say that. Now, he did
Mm.
talk about sacrifice, and
Yeah.
but that's an act of self. Anyway, that's a whole nother podcast in that one.
100%. Yeah, I'm
You
conscious of
you did
time.
ask me another question about what can women do if they
The
have a
women,
nice guy
please.
partner.
Yeah.
Okay, this is tough because we've already talked about why this one's tough. There's this paradox.
Mm.
If the woman tells the man what to do and he does it, she just polarized him into his feminine, and probably the woman doesn't want him to be more feminine. I saw one of those years ago, one of those internet kind of joke memes about what the woman can and can't do in a relationship, and one of them
Mm.
was the woman can tell the man what to do or tell him how to do it, but she can't do both. Right. That's off limits. You can't tell you should do that and you should do it this way, right? She just polarized him into his feminine.
Mm.
If he
Mm.
does it, he's totally in his feminine, even if he's in a doing mode.
Mm.
There's strings attached. So this is difficult. Women ask me this all the time because I think women are sensitive to this. If I tell him you need to go work on your nice guy stuff, I want you to man up. I want you to set the tone and lead. I want you to quit burdening me with all the decisions. And he goes, yes, dear. Tell me how to do that. How should I do that? She goes, no. You should, the woman will
Yeah.
get it. They're sensitive to it. And I tell women, actually, probably the extent of what you can do is say, hey, I heard a podcast today. This book sounds really good. I thought you might like it. Here, read it if you want. I think you'll
Mm.
like it.
Mm.
You use all your feminine, seductive, tools to at least get him to open no more Mr. Nice Guy. Okay.
Mm.
Then, if he does start, you know, reading, applying it, don't get too nosy. What did you learn? What are you
Mm.
getting out of it? Can you see yourself in there? Now, all of a sudden, he's like he's in school having to, go up to the blackboard and say, yeah, I understood this concept. I get it. But the feminine does know how to subtly reinforce, positively
Mm.
reinforce behaviors. Oh, I love it when you tell me no. Oh, you know how good that felt when you actually just told me what we're going to do instead of asking me? It's just that. Don't go on and on and on about it because all that'll ruin it. But just that one sentence. Oh, thanks for doing that. Oh, you know what? I felt really safe
Mm.
when you stepped up in that way. Or, I really appreciated the way you handled the kids in that situation. Like you said, you like those words of praise. Most men will respond well to that positive affirmation of a job well done. Men,
Mm.
I think the masculine is all about job well done, living
Mm.
masterfully. Now we don't need the praise. We know when we've done it well, but the praise doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
A little bit of, I saw that. That was good. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that's what I'd say to the women. You're gonna have to use a lot of subtlety, a lot of nuance. You can't get the big stick out. Couples would come to my office, with obviously a nice guy and a woman who loved the man, but was tired of his nice guy behaviors. And she's been telling
Starved.
him his covert contract, his lack of boundaries, his lack of decision making or leadership. She's been telling him this,
Yes.
yelling at him about it, sulking about it, withdrawing about
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
fighting about it. They come to my office and I start talking to them about boundaries and leadership
Sure. Sure. Sure.
these traits we've been talking about. And the
Yeah.
guy goes, oh,
Ah.
yeah, I think I understand what you're talking about. I see that. And now the woman looks at him and basically, what the hell? I've been telling you this for years, and you ignore me, you argue with me, or you say yes, dear, and don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The expert, a man tells you once, and you go, okay, I get that. And
Yeah.
I look at the woman, okay, I understand you. I understand you've been telling them this. I said, you're his muse. You see it, you feel it, you get it all the way into your nervous system. And I
Mm.
go, we guys are slower. And I'll tell him it takes the big stick, usually from a guy, because he doesn't,
Yeah.
he's not dependent on my approval to know if he's going to have sex later on tonight,
Yeah.
right? He is dependent on your approval to know we can have sex later on tonight. So I said, we've taken that out of the equation. So I can hit him with the big stick
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
and he'll get it. So I said, do that subtle reinforcement. Oh, I'm so glad you got that.
Yeah. And it
you know,
allows her to fulfill the role that's irreplaceable, which is the wife. It allows her
yeah,
just to be the wife in a relationship rather than
yeah.
the mother as well.
Oh, well, there's another podcast
Oh
of the
yeah,
women,
I'm trying to wrap up here. I'm trying to
of
be
the
conscious of your
women,
time.
with the women having to mother women do not want to mother their boyfriends or husbands. But again, that was kind of where we started this conversation of
Yeah.
men needing that kind of validation from the woman.
Mm. I am super grateful of your work, super grateful for your time. We have a word here at Always Better Than Yesterday. It's called Heartprint, and the word really symbolizes the legacy of our work. It's the legacy, it's the ripple effect. Dr. Robert, what do you hope that your legacy, what do you hope your heartprint will be?
Um, I live in that every day. I'm very conscious I'm 68 years old. I've had a couple of near death experiences in the last 6 years. Um, I know it's out there. Like Carlos Castaneda wrote, keep death right here on your left side.
Mm,
Know that it's there. Let it be your
mm,
companion, and let that guide you right in life. And so that's part of growing up is no, I'm going to die, and
yeah.
and I love it when I get emails, when I go on podcasts and people say,
Mm,
Robert, thank you for your book. I love your book. It changed my life.
mm,
Um, that book represents my own personal work. It represents, 6 to 7 years of labor of writing, 3 years to get it published, 20 something years. Still to this day, here I am talking to people promoting, what I've done.
mm,
And when I launched Integration Nation, when I started working on it a couple of years ago, the deeper I got into it, I thought, I should be maybe retiring, in my mid 60s. But I thought, I'm not ready. And I thought, oh,
mm.
this grabbed somebody said, Robert, you need to create a MEMS membership program and put everything you've ever created in it
Yes,
and
sir.
give men a pathway through it. And I thought, you know what? If I die and everything I've ever created is just in a Dropbox folder somewhere, I've done a disservice to the world.
Mm,
Um, I'm here, and I've started really to believe a lot more in fate over the last couple of years. That my fate is you and I having this conversation right
yeah,
now, and other
yeah,
things that will grow out of that I
yep,
can't see, you can't see, we can't
yep.
know. Other doors will open up, other people will be affected. That's my legacy.
Yes, sir.
So about a year and a half ago, I thought I can't launch a new business
Yeah.
and keep thinking I might semi-retire in the near future. And I thought, you know me, I swear a little bit. Fuck it. I'm in it for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
I'm in it for 20 more years. I'm bringing my A game.
Let's
I'm
go.
bringing, my youth energy, not my, oh, I'm
Mm,
close to retirement energy.
right.
And, people tell me all the time, Robert, I love your energy. You got more energy than guys half your age. And because I believe in what I'm doing. And even
Yeah.
though I'm building a business,
Yeah.
I'm learning so much. I'm swimming in deeper waters than I've ever swam as a
Yeah.
businessman. But beyond that, my message has permeated the world already.
Yeah.
And I really believe what I teach and what men need is on the cusp of blowing up at even a bigger level.
Let's go.
That's my legacy. So whether I live another 2 years, another 20 years, another 30 years, I really hope to leave behind a changed world that changed because I helped men change one man at a time. I helped men do better. And when men do better, it changes the world. I'll just tell you a quick story, and then I got invited a couple of years ago to go down to Costa Rica and be the guest speaker at a retreat center that's an ayahuasca retreat center. I'd never done ayahuasca, never done psychedelics. And I went and they wanted me an influencer. It was a men's week. And they had a shaman there. And this shaman, he was great. It was the fourth night. I didn't know and they had a different shaman every night for every ceremony. There were 4 ceremonies. And the fourth night goes all night long. And I didn't know that the shaman even knew who I was. I was just one of many guys in this room. And he gave me a blessing at the end. And he put his arms around me, around my neck, and he just got close to my ear. And he said, what you're doing is amazing, because if we're going to change the world, we got to change the men. We got to start with the men. And he said, so keep doing what you're doing. And then he said 3 times, you're not alone. You're not alone. You're not alone. I still get tears in my eyes. That was so moving that just put it in perspective. We work on one man at a time. One man a little bit more conscious, one man a little bit more open-hearted, one man a little bit aware, one man doing better, one man connecting deeper with other men, one man being more loving, more conscious, more leading with his partner, with his children. We're changing the world. That's my legacy.
Oh, let's go. I'm here for it. Dr. Robert, what an honor and privilege for this conversation. I'll put all your good links in the show notes, and I'll be honored if you'd lead us with a final thought from your good self.
A final thought from my good self. I'll go back to what I said a little bit earlier. Don't try to do this alone, right? We're built to need tribe. We're built to need to be part of a team. We'll be at our best. We'll play at our best with good teammates surrounding us. So don't do it alone.
Brother, I appreciate you.
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for this great call. I'll get up at 7:30 anytime to have this talk with you. Actually, I'll start at 7:30. I'll get up before then to have this conversation anytime.
Love it. Hey, my friends, thank you for making it to the end. I hope that our time spent together today has left you a little bit better than before you push play. I'd really appreciate if you just took a moment to leave a review to allow me to meet more people where they are and hopefully leave them a little bit better too. If you're curious to know how I, through Always Better Than Yesterday, can serve you, your team, your organisation, then head to alwaysbetterthanyesterday.com to connect. And while you're there, let me know 1 or 2 things that you're going to do as a result of listening to this conversation. I absolutely love hearing your thoughts, your reflections, and the things that this spark in your own heart and mind. If you want more insights from my heart and mind, I do send out short episodes on a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday and Friday, and again, I hope that they serve you well. I appreciate you listening. I'm Ryan Hartley, host of the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast, a podcast for heart-centered leaders just like you. Keep leading, my friends. Always love.